You are sitting cross-legged on a 300-year-old tatami mat in a hyper-exclusive, invite-only ryote hidden behind an unmarked wooden door in the deepest, most shadowy cuts of Ginza. The air in the room smells of expensive incense and old money. The man sitting across from you is the supreme oyabun of the largest underworld syndicate in the Eastern Hemisphere, a guy who commands 50,000 ruthless foot soldiers with a mere flick of his wrist. Yet he does not command you. In fact, he is currently leaning forward, deferentially pouring 20-year-old Yamazaki whiskey into your crystal glass with both hands, a traditional sign of absolute, undeniable submission. The room is dead silent except for the sound of the amber liquid hitting the hand-carved ice sphere. Every heavily tattooed lieutenant standing guard in the hallway outside is sweating completely through their custom-tailored Italian silk suits because they know the Reaper is in the building, and they know that if you decide to clear the room, none of them will make it to the elevator. You are the apex predator of the Japanese underworld. You are the undisputed top assassin, the phantom who breathes in oxygen and exhales sheer, unadulterated consequence. Everyone bows to you. Everyone fears the shadow you cast, but you absolutely did not spawn into this penthouse suite, and you definitely did not inherit this terrifying level of respect. You bought this throne with a currency minted in marrow, shattered bones, and gunpowder, crawling up from the absolute miserable bottom of the food chain, where human life was laughably cheap and survival was a daily coin toss. Reaching this altitude required sacrificing every single shred of your humanity. And understanding how you became a ghost requires looking back at the dirt you crawled out of. Level 1, The Stray. You are 19 years old, an American expat kid with zero paperwork, no family, and absolutely no future, sleeping on a damp, mildew-covered futon in a windowless boiler room in the industrial sprawl of Kawasaki. You are starving. Your ribs push against your skin like the bars of a bird cage, and you survive by running low-level interference for a neighborhood street crew that treats you like a disposable battery. You are a runner, moving small packages of synthetic narcotics and illegal sports betting slips between cramped pachinko parlors and sketchy dive bars. You are a nobody, a ghost in the machine, completely invisible to the wealthy businessmen walking right past you. But invisibility is a weapon, and you are about to discover exactly how lethal it can be. The local crew boss, a mid-level thug named Takeshi who wears entirely too much cheap cologne, gets violently ripped off by a rival gang's enforcer. Takeshi is furious, but he is also a coward, unwilling to risk his own skin to handle the problem. He hands you a rusty, poorly maintained, snub-nosed revolver that looks like it belongs in a museum, points you toward a crowded subway station, and tells you that if you want to eat this week, you need to solve his problem. You do not argue. You do not ask questions. You take the weapon, wrap it in a plastic grocery bag to muffle the cylinder click, and track the enforcer to a grimy public restroom in the bowels of the Shinjuku station. The smell of ammonia is absolutely blinding. You walk in, lock the heavy metal door behind you, and the enforcer barely has time to turn around before you raise the bag and pull the trigger twice. The sound is deafening in the tiled room, a concussive shockwave that rattles your teeth, but your hands do not shake. Your heart rate actually drops. You feel an eerie, terrifying sense of total calm wash over you, a clinical detachment that tells you exactly who you are meant to be. You drop the weapon in the trash, walk out into the bustling Tokyo crowd, and seamlessly blend into the sea of umbrellas. The crew pays you $500. It is the most money you have ever seen in your life, but more importantly, you have officially crossed the line. You are no longer a stray dog begging for scraps. You are a tool with a specific utility, and that is just the beginning of Level 1. Level 2, the instrument. 5 years pass, and the rusty revolvers are entirely a thing of the past. Your reputation for ice-cold surgical efficiency eventually reaches the upper echelons of the Kanto Syndicate, pulling you completely out of the gutter and into the pristine, highly organized corporate structure of the Yakuza. You are no longer doing sloppy drive-bys or messy bathroom hits. You are executing highly sophisticated, intricately planned eliminations of massive corporate liabilities. Your handler is an old-school Wakagashira named Sato, a man who views violence not as a blunt instrument, but as a scalpel. He teaches you that the most effective assassinations do not look like assassinations at all. They look like tragic accidents, sudden heart failures, and devastating strokes. You upgrade your entire arsenal. You trade the loud, messy firearms for customized, non-metallic ceramic blades, tasteless neurotoxins derived from obscure marine biology, and a hyper-detailed understanding of human anatomy. Your bank account skyrockets. You are making $200,000 a job, living in a hyper-minimalist, high-tech apartment in Roppongi, and wearing suits that cost more than a reliable used car. You are given a target, a high-profile, incredibly corrupt whistleblower accountant who is threatening to hand over the clan's offshore banking ledgers to the Tokyo Metropolitan Police. The guy is paranoid, living in a heavily fortified penthouse guarded by private security contractors who check every single meal he eats. Brute force is completely off the table. So, you play the long game. You spend 3 weeks tracking the daily routines of his security detail, finding the one guy who has a crippling sports gambling debt. You do not threaten him, you simply buy his debt, own his life, and instruct him to swap out the accountant's daily asthma inhaler with an identical canister containing a highly concentrated lethal dose of aerosolized fentanyl. The accountant takes a hit during his morning treadmill run, collapses from a massive cardiac event, and is dead before his expensive private doctors can even load him into the ambulance. The police rule it a tragic health failure. You receive a wire transfer from a shell company in the Cayman Islands before the obituary even hits the local papers. You are a completely untraceable ghost, but the problem with being the best is that you inevitably start drawing the attention of people who hunt ghosts for a living. The American intelligence community, specifically a highly funded task force operating out of the embassy, starts noticing the strange, sudden power vacuums opening up across the Asian financial markets. They start compiling a dossier on a shadow operator they call the Tokyo Wraith, mapping the impossible coincidences that surround your targets. You are living the high life, a rock star of the underworld, but you are completely unaware that a massive, invisible crosshair is slowly being painted directly onto your back, and that is the horrifying reality of Level 2. Level 3, the Architect. You are 28 years old, and you are no longer just taking orders. You are fundamentally shaping the geopolitical landscape of the Pacific Rim. The Syndicate has basically given you a blank check and total autonomy to protect their multi-billion-dollar shipping lanes. You are orchestrating the downfalls of entire rival organizations, planning hits that require months of setup, fake identities, and synchronized multi-city operations. You are a mastermind, but the psychological weight of the life is starting to crush your soul into fine powder. You cannot sleep without pharmaceutical intervention, and even then, your dreams are violently vivid replays of the exact moment the light leaves your target's eyes. You trust absolutely no one. Every stranger on the street is a potential threat, every clicking sound on your encrypted phone is a federal wiretap, and every meal you eat could be laced with the exact same toxins you use to solve your own problems. The paranoia is a living, breathing monster that sits on your chest 24 hours a day. Meanwhile, the embassy task force catches a massive, game-changing break. You executed a flawless hit on a triad boss in a crowded Macau casino, but your extraction driver panicked, blew a red light, and got picked up by local authorities. The driver does not know your real name, but he is terrified enough to offer up a partial description and, devastatingly, the encrypted IP address of the offshore server you use to receive your contracts. The feds bring in their absolute best cyber warfare specialists, dedicating millions of taxpayer dollars to cracking the firewall. They do not get your identity, but they manage to plant a silent tracking algorithm inside your digital payment network. The next time you accept a contract, the FBI immediately pings your physical location. You are sitting in a high-end coffee shop in Shibuya, sipping a $12 pour-over when the glass window directly next to your head completely explodes. A highly trained, heavily armed mercenary extraction team, hired by the Triad to avenge their boss, has tracked the federal ping and decided to bypass the police entirely. The coffee shop turns into an absolute meat grinder. You hit the floor, your muscle memory taking over before your conscious brain even processes the attack. You draw your suppressed, customized sidearm, returning fire through the suffocating cloud of pulverized espresso beans and shattered glass. You manage to neutralize the first two shooters with precise, devastating headshots, but you take a brutal graze to your left shoulder, the bullet tearing through your expensive suit and searing your flesh like a hot iron. You escape through the kitchen, hijacking a delivery scooter and vanishing into the chaotic Tokyo traffic, bleeding, exposed, and utterly compromised. The syndicate immediately disavows you, freezing your assets and burning your safe houses to protect themselves from the fallout. You realize with a chilling, absolute certainty that the Oyabun did not pour you that whiskey out of respect. He poured it as a final, traditional farewell to a dead man. You are completely off the grid, hunted by the feds, targeted by the triads, and betrayed by your own clan. You have exactly one play left: burn the entire criminal empire to the ground before they can put you in the dirt, and that is the bloody, terrifying precipice of Level 3. Level 4, the Siege. You are operating completely in the dark now, a rogue asset with a massive, multi-million-dollar bounty plastered on your head by the very people who built you. You are holed up in a subterranean, decommissioned subway maintenance shaft beneath the bustling streets of Akihabara, bleeding profusely through a makeshift tourniquet fashioned from your ruined designer tie. The air down here is thick, tasting heavily of rust, stale water, and absolute desperation. You are no longer the apex predator. You are the wounded prey, and every single hitter, bounty hunter, and ambitious street punk in the greater Tokyo metropolitan area is aggressively looking to cash in your chips. But the syndicate made one catastrophic, unforgivable miscalculation when they decided to burn you. They forgot that they were the ones who taught you exactly where all the load-bearing pillars of their empire were buried. You do not curl up and wait for the execution squad to find you. You patch your bullet graze with superglue and sheer, unadulterated willpower, swallowing a handful of stolen military-grade amphetamines to keep your heart pumping. You decide it is time to go on a violently aggressive offensive. You start systematically dismantling their financial infrastructure, utilizing the digital tracking algorithms you memorized from the feds. You hit an underground, high-stakes Yakuza gambling den hidden behind a fake ramen shop in Kabukicho, kicking the steel door right off its hinges. You do not even use a gun for this one. You use a heavy carbon fiber tactical baton, moving through the dimly lit room like a terrifying, unstoppable force of nature, shattering kneecaps and collarbones with mathematically precise strikes. You leave the guards groaning in agonizing pain on the sticky, beer-soaked floor, bypassing the vault entirely to steal the encrypted hardware ledgers containing the clan's blackmail material on top-tier Japanese politicians. You leak the entire drive to 3 major international news outlets simultaneously, effectively paralyzing the syndicate's political protection umbrella in a matter of seconds. The fallout is instantaneous and absolutely catastrophic. The elders are panicking, the street captains are pointing fingers at each other, and the entire multi-billion-dollar organization begins cannibalizing itself out of sheer, suffocating paranoia. You are a one-man wrecking ball, a ghost that has returned to haunt the architects of your own demise. You sleep in 30-minute intervals, constantly changing locations, moving through the rain-slicked alleyways like a myth whispered by terrified thugs. The DEA agent, Miller, realizes exactly what you are doing, and instead of hunting you, she quietly pulls her tactical teams back, letting 2 monsters completely destroy each other in the dark. You are running on pure fumes and adrenaline, pushing your physical body so far past its breaking point that your vision actually starts to blur at the edges, and that is the punishing, relentless reality of Level 4. Level 5, the decapitation. The chaotic street war you started has completely drained the Syndicate's resources, forcing the Supreme Oyabun to retreat to his heavily fortified, ancestral mountain estate, nestled deep in the heavily forested hills of Yamanashi Prefecture. It is a massive, sprawling compound protected by state-of-the-art thermal cameras, motion sensor tripwires, and an elite hand-picked private army of 40 heavily armed loyalists who would gladly take a bullet for their boss. To any normal human being, it is an absolutely impenetrable fortress. To you, it is simply the final boss fight, a tactical puzzle begging to be solved. You spend 3 agonizing days observing the compound from a freezing, rain-soaked sniper hideout on a neighboring ridge, mapping the exact patrol routes, calculating the shift changes, and memorizing the blind spots in their overlapping camera grids. You wait for a massive, rolling thunderstorm to roll over the mountains, utilizing the deafening crashes of thunder and blinding lightning strikes to perfectly mask your approach. You breach the outer perimeter wall using a specialized, silent diamond wire cutter, slipping through a gap no wider than your own shoulders. You are a phantom slipping through the torrential downpour. The guards are miserable, huddled under the eaves of the traditional wooden architecture, completely unaware that the Tokyo Wraith has just entered their backyard. You neutralize the first 3 perimeter guards with swift, brutal efficiency, utilizing the ceramic blade to permanently silence them before they can even reach for their radios. You do not feel exhaustion anymore. You exist entirely in a terrifying state of hyper-focused flow, where every single footstep, every single breath, is perfectly calculated for maximum lethal impact. You breach the main house through a reinforced skylight, dropping silently into the opulent, dimly lit grand hallway lined with priceless ancient samurai armor. You are forced into a chaotic, close-quarters firefight when a roaming patrol spots your shadow. The hallway instantly erupts into a deafening roar of automatic weapons fire, the bullets shredding the ancient paper screens and shattering the priceless ceramics into a million pieces. You dive behind a massive oak pillar, returning fire with your suppressed handgun, placing your shots with terrifying mechanical accuracy. 1, 2, 3 targets drop like sacks of wet cement. You reload on the move, pushing aggressively forward, refusing to give them a single inch of breathing room. You reach the Oyabun's private sanctuary, kicking the sliding doors wide open. The old man is sitting there, completely alone, clutching a ceremonial katana with shaking, terrified hands. He tries to offer you money, demanding to know your price, completely failing to realize that you stopped caring about the money a lifetime ago. You do not monologue, you do not gloat. You disarm him with a brutal, paralyzing strike to the wrist, sending the priceless sword clattering onto the tatami mat. You leave him alive, binding him to a chair with industrial zip ties, and you call Agent Miller directly on an unsecured line. You give her the exact coordinates, essentially handing the head of the largest crime syndicate in Asia directly to the American federal government wrapped in a neat, bloody little bow. You slip out the back of the compound just as the blinding spotlight of a federal helicopter cuts through the torrential rain. And that is the absolutely devastating climax of Level 5. Level 6, the absolute zero. You do not wait around to watch the arrest, and you certainly do not stick around to collect any sort of pathetic thank you from the government. You vanish completely into the thick, freezing mountain fog, leaving the sirens and the chaos miles behind you. The Yakuza is essentially completely dismantled, its leadership decapitated, its political protection utterly destroyed, and its financial accounts frozen by international authorities. The streets of Tokyo will eventually fill the power vacuum with a new breed of criminals, but the legendary Kanto Syndicate is officially dead and buried. You hike for 2 straight days through the unforgiving wilderness, surviving on sheer, stubborn grit until you reach a tiny, forgotten fishing village on the freezing coast of the Sea of Japan. You dig up your final, ultimate contingency stash buried beneath the floorboards of an abandoned boathouse. A completely clean, deeply backstopped fake passport, 20 pounds of serialized gold bullion, and a one-way ticket on a rust bucket freighter heading straight for South America. You are no longer the Tokyo Wraith, you are no longer a high-paid corporate fixer, and you are no longer a starving kid running the streets of Kawasaki. You are officially nobody, entirely erased from the global registry, a true ghost in every sense of the word. You sit on the freezing, rust-covered deck of the cargo ship as it slowly pulls out of the harbor, watching the neon glow of Japan slowly fade into the pitch-black horizon. Your body is covered in a horrifying map of scars, burns, and bullet grazes, a permanent, physical ledger of every single terrible choice you ever had to make to survive. The money in your duffel bag is enough to live like an absolute king in a coastal villa in Chile, but you know deep down that the paranoia will absolutely never leave you. You will spend the rest of your natural life checking over your shoulder, sitting facing the exits in crowded restaurants, and sleeping with a loaded, chambered firearm resting directly under your pillow. You won the game, you beat the absolute worst monsters the underworld had to offer, but the ultimate tragic cost was your entire soul. You take a deep, freezing breath of the salty ocean air, realizing that the silence is finally, truly deafening. There are no more targets, no more handlers, and absolutely no more shadows left to hide in. You are completely alone with the ghosts of the people you left behind, and level 6 is the horrifying, lifelong realization that you can never, ever truly wash the blood off your hands.